So I'll call Member Bergman now, no longer chair. Thank you, Chair. Present. Member Solomon, not present. Vice Chair Kyle is not present. All alternate and Coyne is present today, and so you will be a voting member if we vote on for this meeting. Also present this evening are a couple of folks from the Department of Public Works, Matthew and April, and thank you, Mayor Kate, for being here too. We greatly appreciate public feedback. We'll have open time for public expression for items that are not on the agenda at the end of the meeting. It looks we have a few here. I assume you all want to talk, and so I'll allow 10 or 15 minutes at the end for that. So our first agenda item is to approve the minutes from our February 7th and March 12th meetings. So these could be found in our agenda packet. Do any of the committee members have questions or need any clarifications from either of the minutes? No? Do any members of the public have comments relating to the minutes from the last two meetings?
Only in the room.
Oh, yeah, great. Anyone in the room? No comments?
I never saw minutes from the last two meetings.
They were posted online, sent out.
Yeah,
It's in the
this
message.
is literally all I got, 2 pages.
Actually, if you go to the website, if you go to the website, it's there.
Yeah, it's in the packet.
Must have just sent it. You get a packet.
Okay, so we'll have an A or nay vote to approve the meeting minutes. We'll do both of them at the same time. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Right.
Aye. All right, we have voted unanimously 4-0 to approve both of the minutes as submitted. Okay, our first agenda item is the traffic signal improvement updates. We're going to be presented by Advanced Mobility Group. Can we invite them to present?
Hi, I'm here.
Welcome.
Thank you. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes, please go ahead.
Um, mm. Can everyone see? So, can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Shabnam Yari. So I'm the Senior Transportation Engineer with Advanced Mobility Group. I have Matthew here with me as well. He's our traffic signal specialist, and we support the city of San Rafael with signal timing improvements. So in San Rafael's downtown area, we've conducted an analysis of the current signal coordination and fine-tuned the coordinated offsets to enhance traffic flow and prioritize green throughput along key corridors. We did this by conducting before and after travel time runs during the peak traffic hours to determine which intersections needed timing adjustments. So we prioritized coordinating Heatherton Street and Irwin Streets over Mission Avenue, Fifth Avenue, and 4th Street because those two streets generated a lot more traffic demand. But we kept 2nd Street and 3rd Street as the priority corridors, but we cross-coordinated their offsets with Heatherton and Irwin to so that the left turn movements coming from 2nd and 3rd and going to the freeway doesn't get backed up under the overpass. So coordination of the signals in the downtown area is needed because of the closely spaced intersections and the high vehicle and ped volumes that we have. And having good signal coordination is very important because it helps manage the congestion by minimizing the delays. It provides a designated crossing time for pedestrians, which reduces the risk of accidents. It allows transit vehicles to move smoothly through the intersection and reduces idle time, which helps with decreasing fuel consumption. So the MUTCD updated the pedestrian walking speed guideline from 4 feet per second to 3.5 feet per second in 2009. And this provides for a longer time for pedestrians to cross the street. We use the city's central management software, Centrax, to revise the pedestrian crossing times to give more clearance times for the peds. The minimum green times were also updated to give bicyclists enough time to clear the intersection in order to reduce conflicts with the vehicles. We measured the distance from the limit line to the far side of the last conflicting lane for each direction and used the appropriate formula to determine the minimal bicycle timings. So leading pedestrian intervals give pedestrians a head start to cross the street before the traffic signal turns green. We're currently programming the signals in the downtown area to give pedestrians a 5-second head start. This will reduce the risk of conflicts between pedestrians and the turning vehicles. Other safety benefits of incorporating LPIs at the intersections are increasing the visibility of crossing pedestrians and giving priority to pedestrians within the intersection. Also, starting this year, California law under Assembly Bill 1909, cyclists are now legally allowed to cross an intersection when a walk sign is displayed, even when the red light is on, which is going to increase bicycle safety. The city installed MyoVision video detection in the downtown area. There are currently 59 intersections that are connected to MyoVision. The video detection detects both vehicles and pedestrians. This helps us monitor the signals and investigate any issues remotely. Along with video detection, MyoVision has SPM capabilities, which provides insight into vehicle and pedestrian behavior to help us identify any safety risk at the intersections, such as pedestrian compliance and like red light runners. So these insights help us with revising timing plans and improving the overall mobility, safety, and decreasing congestion. MyoVision SPM also collects turning movement counts. The counts show vehicles, trucks, buses, pedestrians, and bicycle volumes. This helps us determine the peak hours and which direction has high demand. That way we can analyze which corridor to prioritize during signal coordination. Along with MyoVision, the city also has Centrax Mobility. This is a cloud-based traffic management platform that offers signal performance measures such as arrivals on green data, vehicles and pedestrian delay, split failure reports, preemption calls, and any detection issues that may arise. It also has an optimization feature where the system runs an analysis on a selected corridor and recommends improvements on the cycle lengths, on the offsets, split times, and phase sequences. We compare this data with our travel time runs to provide the best signal coordination throughout the downtown corridors. So along with signal timing improvements, we've also conducted safety analysis for the intersection of Manuel Freitas Parkway and Las Galinas Avenue after the city received public concerns related to the closeness of the eastbound and westbound left turn movements. The proposed safety improvements included changing the phase sequence to prohibit eastbound and westbound left turns going simultaneously together, adding bike lane conflict striping throughout the intersection, adding green bike lane markings approaching the intersection, installing a sign at the east leg median to provide to guide pedestrians to use the marked crosswalks instead of jaywalking on the east leg. Also increasing the minimum green time to satisfy bike clearance and the minimum pedestrian clearance times for the crosswalk. We've also conducted a safety analysis for the intersection of Irwin Street and Mission Avenue. The recommended improvements include pushing back the limit line for the westbound left turn pocket to reduce near misses from vehicles making a left turn from northbound lane. We also recommend refreshing the crosswalk markings to make it more visible, adding a shared through right turn arrow to avoid confusion going through the intersection, and replacing the smaller signal heads with the standard 12-inch size signal heads. And yeah, that concludes the end of my presentation.
That was impressive.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite technical questions or clarifications from the commissioners first.
Hi, this is Mark Kyle. You said that on the MyoVision SPM, it looked at a lot of different metrics. Was there, and you gave a couple of examples, was there any one of those examples that it automatically defers to or lists as a priority, or is it totally random and just data gathering? Is there anything built in that says, look for this particularly is the most important thing, and then these next 5 things, and then everything else, or is it all just data?
So for the data, you select what you want to focus on. So it has a lot of different features. If you want to just focus on red light runners for a certain specific day of the week and the time of the day, you can filter that out. Or if you want to look at pedestrian compliance, how many pedestrians push the button or walk when the flashing red hand sign is turned on. So there's a lot of filters you can select to decide, what you want to focus on.
Who makes that decision?
Who makes that decision?
Yeah, who prioritizes it?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Who makes the decision to prioritize a particular data point? Is that the city manager, the Department of Public Works, you folks, this committee, the mayor?
So the city, when we receive complaints from Public Works on any signal issues or any type of issues, detection issues, then we would use the SPM feature to figure out what was the cause of that issue. So that's how we would use those SPM capabilities.
Is that in retroactive, or is that, hey, this is a concern, so for the next 90 days, we're going to prioritize red light runners?
Both, it would be both reactive and proactive. So if there's a problem, then we would react to solve that issue. And then proactive is every week we would do some signal system checks to make sure the signals and the video detections are working according to how it's designed.
Yeah, and hi, this is Matthew, also with AMG with Shamnam. Yeah, we're both responding to the public's requests and being proactive about it, and so this SPM tool, it gives us some insights saying, okay, this intersection recently, the last few days have been having some phase termination issues, or maybe some of the a longer delay than normal, or a longer pedestrian delay than normal, and then so we can look at that and look at that for what could be causing those issues.
I guess to answer part of your question, so we have 90 traffic signals in the cities. We can't be doing this on every day. So yes, a lot of it is complaint driven. Sometimes it's key focus on this downtown. If you see any alerts, and then we have consultants to help us analyze.
Right. It sounds like there's a lot of data gathering. I'm just thinking of things like, what's the correlation to accidents in those 90 intersections, or let's say a dozen key intersections, and I don't really want to know how many times the button's pushed to turn the light. What I want to know is who are the red light runners who actually run somebody over, whether it's a cyclist or pedestrian. So are those kind of accidents and fatality rise to the top as a priority for trying to glean information? Seems like not killing people would be more important than figuring out some other more trivial data point. So I was just trying to figure out, what the thinking is, or is it just kind of an automatic, we're gathering data, and then a question comes up and, well, let's take a look at that.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends. Like, yes, so when questions come up, we do analyze it. If we notice things, and we go further into data and look at different types of the data we have. I think it's obvious if there's collision, we look at it even, more. That's one of the indicators of looking at the signal, not just complaints. And so we're continuously kind of looking at the data, but we want to gather it so that we have a history of the data So if something comes up, we can use that data in our analysis. But, and we also, I mean, there's certain intersections that we're looking at, you know, for instance, the Second and Fourth Street intersection, that's in an interim condition where we can add different, you know, locations that we're gonna monitor to see what's happening in the interim that we wouldn't necessarily monitor if it was a permanent condition. So we're like kind of continuously, yeah, it's a lot of data, but we need the data for different purposes.
Just one follow-up question. Thank you for that, for those answers. Is it run 24 hours a day? So data gathered during the evening as well?
Yes, it runs 24 hours and it stores the data, so you can look at past information from past month or the past week. So I'm not sure for how long it stores the data, but probably a few months. Nat, do you know if it's over, if
Yeah.
it's a year or
I think it's over a month.
over a month? Okay.
But based on their database that they have, they can store it up to 2 years worth of data. One thing that makes it so powerful, it's like, let's just say we have a collision that happens in the city. So now we start to actually look at why did that accident happen? There's all these studies and little parameters and warrants that we have to go through. And to have all this live stream data at our fingertips, it's so powerful that we can do these studies a lot quicker. And that's how we kind of, you know, whether it's being reactive or proactive,
Right.
we need that data.
Right, right. Be interesting. I don't know if folks saw the article in New York Times about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, showing that pedestrian collisions and fatalities have increased in the United States, contrary to Western Europe, where it's been on a decline for a number of years. And when you look at the data and break it down, it's mostly at night. And that traffic engineering is woefully insufficient in this country in terms of study and execution. So I'm just hoping San Rafael can get ahead of that and we can brighten up those intersections.
Any other
Questions? Actually, I'm just sort of thinking ahead since we're getting ready to do an update of the bicycle pedestrian master plan. And, you know, typically I know when in those kinds of plans, we look at the Switters or Tim's database and look at the collision records and all that. And I'm just wondering how are there capabilities that this has that you all are aware of, and maybe it's something to explore that would give us additional insights beyond what's in the collision records? Relative to bike and ped safety.
Yeah, I mean, I know we can track the data, you know,
Yes.
the number of bicycles, number of pedestrians, we can, you know, kind of look at the patterns if we want to, you know, watch.
Or the unsafe behaviors, I mean, I guess maybe look at wrong way riding or things
Yeah.
like that. Okay, I mean, it'd just be interesting to explore what some of those.
Yeah, that data doesn't stay around as long because of the capacity. So I mean, for instance, like I said, Second and Fourth Street, we're really watching the behaviors there more just because they're, you know, we want to see how those interactions are working. So we're looking at that closer, but yeah, we don't necessarily, yeah, if we want to certain intersections, we could.
Yeah. As you know, with all of these cameras around the city, you know, we can within a few seconds look at any given intersection and we can just watch how the pedestrians and bicyclists are using that intersection. You know, that kind of it's almost as good as being, you know, there's of course, you know, really good to be in the field and actually experience an intersection. But the next best thing is to watch any intersection at any given period of time, and so we can make decisions based on how we're seeing all the users use the intersection and you know, improvements in the crosswalks, and looking at some of those desire lines. Are we seeing that most of the cars on a certain right turn are going too fast, and we can use some engineering works to slow that down. So that's just part of our toolbox to improve the safety through watching.
I have a couple other questions. Is there any sort of dashboard that displays this information to the public? Is there?
Not at this time.
Okay. And that's just not part of the product or the service, that,
Not, yeah, we haven't explored that. I mean, that, yeah.
There are some features right now, where it's, you know, greenhouse gas emissions and all that, gives you, you know, how much are we saving based on the, instead of cars being delayed and all that, how much are you reducing emissions? There's miles, counts, there's all these reports that we can print and look dive
Yeah.
into, but we just haven't had the time. We just finally run the system installs the
Sure.
infrastructure. So the next part is, okay, so we have this powerful tool in front of us. What can we pick out of that? So that's something we just need to dive into.
I think that the displaying the data, I mean, it's great that we're collecting all this data, good work and good presentation. But I was, you had one slide in there and it was just an example of 4th and 8th for some random days. And I saw that, I was like, wow, it's like a remarkably steady stream of traffic all through the day. I would expect more pronounced peaks. And so I think things like that would be really interesting. If
Yeah,
there
we can
could be some.
We could look at exploring, doing pulling reports every so often and that, but I mean, we have, what, 40 mile vision cameras, I think, up. So
59 out of 90.
Yeah, well, that's the number of intersections that are observed, not necessarily the number of cameras.
Okay.
But, yeah, so we would just have to kind of, it's one of those things we need to add to our, it takes staff time, it does take,
Yeah.
efforts. So we just need to figure out kind of what we want to prioritize and what kind of information we want to produce that would be useful to the community and at what rate.
And does the, I don't know who to ask the question to, does the software also, sort of display outputs in terms of locations on maps? And so like, my thought is, in the city, we have these car priority routes and pedestrian priority routes and bike priority routes that we highlight as sort of being the way that we want people to go. And in your diagram, you showed, we're prioritizing 2nd and 3rd Street over Heatherton and Irwin when you showed that. And I think it would be really cool if to make sure what we're calling a pedestrian priority route is actually the pedestrian priority route and make sure, is that a output that can be made? I'm just thinking of our plans, like this is sort of like with Barry's stuff, when we make our bicycle and pedestrian master plan, it's always a map of do this here, and it would be really cool to see numbers on some of that.
Yeah, I would think in locations that we have the cameras, which was more specifically in downtown.
Yeah.
In other areas of the city, we don't necessarily have cameras, so it'd be harder to do that, but yeah, in downtown core.
Could be that. There's the data's already there. It's just a matter of plotting to the heat map and then kind of share them.
Yeah.
But again, it's still time. We have that priorities, went over them all last night.
Yeah.
Forward safety.
I suppose the software they have would just generate all these reports. Sure.
We have the app, we have the apps to generate
Yeah.
like what kind of reports.
Great. Any other comments?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so when I think about traffic signalization, the email that I get is always around the smart train. So I'm curious about the data sharing or what that looks like, because I know Smart has their own algorithms and just curious how that impacts or how that is just, how it intersects. So if you're looking at 2nd, and we know that we've had, God forbid, a pedestrian strike or something's happened, right? So that affects how long the gates are down. So I'm just curious if there's any sort of partnership or collaboration around that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a site walk that happened a few months ago with Smart and then also the CPUC and our consultants, their consultants to kind of review the smart tracks in regards to, vehicle congestion, pedestrians, bicycles. And I know I attended the meeting about a year ago on the same thing. It's kind of a continuous collaboration on how can we improve the signals and how can we improve the gates. And so it is a constant.
Yeah, because I know Smart's always looking at the gate time, but we have a lot more, we have the upstream as it were information that can affect all of that as well. Okay, no, that's great, because it just seems like we have all this data and it's a huge transit corridor. So, okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Can we have any questions from the public? So, yeah, we could go ahead first, Lori.
First of all, the smart trains, since they paid attention to when we go to 2 different directions, that has gotten so much better. So I appreciate that. Couple of things. I would like, not now, to see a list of the intersections that actually have the mile vision on it. That would be helpful. But two things that I've noticed recently is the light, for a while, actually, the light on Bayview and D Street, where you can't actually see the light, except that there's one next to it, so you can read that, you can see that one. I don't understand that. That's not the first time I've seen that at an intersection around here. There's a couple of them actually on Third Street also. It makes no sense to me. Thinking you might also you have a sign up that says stop here when you're turning the corner onto Third Street. Very few people stop there. I try and then they look at me funny and then they sort of inch up because they see the sign. There's a way to make that sign bigger where, I mean, it's very, very small. It would be helpful to get more cars through that intersection. And that's it. And that was an incredibly impressive, that's like, I've been to all of these things. That was the best one I've ever seen. You guys rock.
I think, let's take all the public comments and then we could respond to them. We're done. Go ahead.
My question is, does this data connect to the police officers? So just, sorry, but is this data shared with police?
Were you able to hear that question?
Yeah, sorry, we can answer it.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
they do have access to the sound data that we do. And more. So. I'm sorry, I answered it right away.
No, that's
Okay.
Answer Lori's, Lori's concern.
Well, we don't have the list off the top of our head, so the information we would have to provide at a later time.
Yeah, no, that'd be great.
Yeah, and then those specific intersections, we just need to look at.
Okay.
I don't have, that needs to be more research.
Sure. One more public comment here. Yeah.
The data shared with the police, are the police sharing data with the system? Because accidents are reported to the police, that's my understanding.
Sometimes.
And sometimes, or not. It would be nice if the public could say, oh, I had a near miss at this intersection, but that's for another day. But I'm wondering if the police are providing feedback to the system on accident reports they've received.
Guaranteed that.
Sorry, you're saying specifically, do they get to?
Do the police provide you all and the system with the data they're collecting from their accident reports?
Yeah, I mean, we coordinate very closely with the police department on, if there's a collision, we both want to analyze it for totally different, different but similar reasons, right? We want to see how the infrastructure that's out there, how that works, how the signal's working. They have other issues that they're looking at in regards to if there's a collision in a certain location. So, yeah, we meet with them. We have a traffic safety committee meeting that's every other month that we meet with them and fire to talk about issues that have come up, whether it's collisions or other just kind of reports we get on safety concerns. And so it's a continuous.
But the data is, there's some process where the data they're collecting is shared with the system and incorporated into the computer models.
I'm not sure how I mean, I know if we want to pull, we'd have to check it. I know if we want to pull, like we're looking at intersections, sometimes we'll ask them for collision history in that location so we can pull that data, or the state database. That was all part of the local road safety plan that lists all of the, the collision history at different locations. If we don't want them recurrent, we do ask them for that.
Yeah, it would seem like a process where their data is automatically incorporated into this model would streamline that. You wouldn't have to request it from the police department.
I don't know, this is a pretty new system in the city, so we haven't talked about like what can they upload to the system. Like we haven't had that kind of conversations. So yeah, that's something we'll bring up to them.
I don't know. PD uses a lot of the data and
Where they can change the light.
information that they gather for their investigation to confirm, what type of accidents are out there in regards to how further we will take that data and utilize it. We're just starting kind of that next step.
Okay. With no more public comment, we can deliberate or talk as the committee. Any other final comments? Thoughts?
I'm just intrigued by it. I think it's a really interesting technology. It's great to have all this data. I mean, I think especially with the plan coming up, to be able to get pedestrian and bicycle counts was gonna be really helpful. I'm really curious about the downtown area. I know when I looked at some of the collision data, there were a very high percentage of collisions involving pedestrians had to do with vehicles yielding to pedestrians. So that's just the collisions, and I'm sure there's plenty of things that don't end up being collisions where vehicles didn't yield. So it'd just be interesting to be able to monitor that kind of thing, to see where are there particular locations where there are problems, and we might want to be able to do something about it.
I think we should think about, the committee should think about questions that might be useful to feed to Public Works and to gather data, particularly in light of your earlier question, Barry, of the revamping the master plan, and what are data points that might be useful in looking at that and revamping it.
I agree. I feel like the streets aren't as safe as they could be for pedestrians. I feel like any data we get to make it better would be wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's pretty wonderful to have this also. I think in practice, how this committee could best use it is, as we have the master plan when it's coming up, I suspect we'll form a number of subcommittees. And potentially, I would say this could be one of the subcommittees we could have to meet with Nat or the city, whoever, to go and answer some questions and help inform that plan. That's how it might work well. Okay, thank you very much. After Lindsay was here, she gave us the proper way. She wants us to receive and file everything. So I'd like to invite a motion to receive and file. So hopefully one of you could make the motion, one of you could second. All right, so we will vote on the motion to receive and file the traffic signal improvement update plan with an A or nay vote. First, the ayes.
A.
All right, the committee unanimously votes 4 to 0 to receive and file this presentation. The next item on our agenda is the Manuel T. Freitas Parkway and Monticello Road slip lane closure pilot update. So I'd like to invite someone to give this presentation. It doesn't tell me who is going to give the presentation.
Okay, so I just want to give an update on the slip lane. So this is the location of the slip lane that we're talking about. So this is at Freitas Parkway and Monticello and Bamboo Terrace. And so there was concerns about, in the red arrow is how some people were, the slip lane, what it is a faster way to get to the side street is what, it's an old design standard that's no longer used. And so people were using this slip lane to make that right turn and then a right turn on Bamboo Terrace. And if you can see this photo on the right is a screenshot, the sight distance in this location is just really hard for visibility for pedestrians. And so there's just concerns that not everyone actually stops at stop signs. So there's that. And then also just kind of the visibility and the safety of people walking and biking in the area. Next slide. So in October, we decided to do a 6-month pilot to close the slip lane because there's still access on Manuel T. Freitas to make a right onto Monticello. So we put out some orange barriers, some white delineators, and we closed it and just were available. Anybody could reach out to the city they were all over next door. So we're just receiving feedback. Most of the feedback we've received was in October. And then recently we received a little bit since we said this was going to be a 6-month pilot. Go ahead. Next slide. Okay, so I would say that like 99% of the comments we received were positive. There was a couple negative. One of the concerns was this right turn. Sorry for my image I made it, but so people were concerned with making a right turn from Freitas onto Monticello, and they were concerned that there wasn't enough space for them to make the right turn without, going over the yellow line for people going the opposite direction. So we looked at this. We had our fire trucks go out there, our big fire trucks go out there. They made the turn and they had 0 issues with making it. They said no problem, we can make it fine. So that was really only the only negative comment we got that we verified and didn't see an issue with it. Go ahead. So, that being said, our plan is to keep the slip lane closed. We're gonna remove the orange barriers, keep the white delineators that are out there. And then also in the next fiscal year, as part of our annual program for remove and replace sidewalk, our plan is to create some new curb ramps and some sidewalk to provide, and a new crosswalk to provide access from Bamboo Terrace to the corner, northwest corner of Freitas and Monticello. There is a kid drop off that occurs there that we've heard from buses. And just providing access for people who are walking into the neighborhood or to school, the high school, or just people to coming to the south side of Freitas Parkway. So that's a project that we're going to be working on next year. And yeah, so that's our update. There were a few comments about, could we make this a pocket park, or could we do anything else as far as improvements in this area? So as part of our recent Park and Rec master plan, we looked at all of the different parks where we could potentially do parks and kind of dive into like, what is the needs of the community? The number one comment was, let's fix what we have before let's do something new. And also looking at different areas and where the closest park is. And there's lots of parks along Freitas Parkway, including Terra Linda Community Center, which is very close. So this was not identified as a high priority project to put a park in this location. So yeah, we're going to continue to put up some white delineators, which should be at least more attractive than the orange barriers, and keep this closed with some new sidewalk. So that's the extent of my update and my cartoons that I do.
Do we have any technical questions from clarifications from commissioners? Go ahead.
So what are you gonna do with the slip road? Is it gonna stay as a road, or are you gonna?
So it's gonna stay as asphalt right now. I mean, the plan is to keep it as asphalt and just have the delineators. People just can't drive on it.
Can they skateboard on it and do things they shouldn't do?
I was thinking.
Is it gonna be attracting people that could get hurt? I mean, kids, and they could get hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna remain asphalt, so we could still. I mean, I have to see whether or not we can still put our sweeper through there. We might have to remove some delineators to keep that area clean. We also have blowers and stuff that can help keep the area clean, but the intent is to keep it as is. Just
You wouldn't think of putting bark or something on it to cover up the asphalt?
We have not at this time considered that. I mean, that's also a maintenance issue. If it rains, bark will go into the storm drain, go into the gutter, which will go into the storm drain, and then we have issues with that.
Questions, Barry or Mark? Okay, let's have public comments. Go ahead.
I'm a resident of that neighborhood, so hi. So thank you for making this all happen. I've been fighting for this for years. My kids, I used to walk to school around that area. I've just seen a lot of horrible incidents and close calls, and so it makes me very happy to see it safer for all the little kids. My kids are not driving and whatnot, so it's not as what's that?
That's safe.
It's not as safe anymore. But I will say, having a child learning to drive, not having to navigate that blind turn has been a game changer. I was thinking about that on my way over. The one comment I have is I actually appreciate, I don't care what the barriers look like or whatever. I'm glad that they're gonna be white. That's fine. My main concern, I guess, going forward is once we get all this stuff done, like what's gonna be the plan? It sounds like there really isn't a plan for that area. It's gonna look really gross after a while, because we've seen concrete asphalt after a while, if it's not driven on, you get little weeds, I mean, it just gets sticky looking. I know aesthetics aren't like a huge deal, but for the neighbors, I know that's one of the biggest concerns. Like, would it be possible to do something cheap, like AstroTurf or Tambar, to your comment, or we've kind of toyed around with it. A lot of the neighbors have been using it as a park lately. There's been furniture showing up that they're getting on, free.com or whatever. So there's some kind of random things showing up, and I'm seeing kids playing there with their parents, and people do ride their skateboard bikes, whatever, down there, and it's kind of a little shortcut to Scotty's. But it's gonna get funky after a while if it's not taken care of and turn into something usable. Is there some sort of like timeline to maybe come up with a plan for it, or is it just tabled for now?
Thank you. I think we'll take all the comments and then we'll answer them. I saw other hands.
Yeah, I also live in the neighborhood and I'm pleased to hear this information. It is news to me because it wasn't on the FAQ webpage, which you guys set up, which I also wasn't aware of until today when I looked to see if an update. So I think it would be a good step to share information on the website, but more importantly, share it with a community member. Because, you know, Sarah and I and another community member are kind of fielding questions and defending the changes on next door. And, you know, we're kind of flying blind. We're trying to. 'Cause Yeah. We're flying blind because we often don't have information about what the steps will be. So, you know, if you can email me or Sarah or Lauren, you know, we'll share our information. And that way we can share it with the community on next door. And also share a link to the FAQ page, which I'm assuming will be updated to reflect this information. And, you know, we'd love to see a timeline for when the crosswalk and the new sidewalk will go in, because that is really what precipitated this whole process. There were a lot of close calls there. I know some people don't want to acknowledge it, but there were. And I've been in a number of close calls at that intersection, the cars pointing out of the terrace. So people are jaywalking all the time across Monticello at that intersection. It's safer now that the slip lane's closed, but they're going right across where those two red lines are on the bottom of that map. And without an ADA compliant sidewalk or crosswalk there, in April, I know you have heard me complain about the lack of a crosswalk there, and I was trying to get it put in when you were doing the new paving project. But that is a very high priority for the community. Getting the orange barricades out of there will also, I think, help smooth things over with some of the naysayers. The fact that they were recently graffitied is also causing some people to be upset about it. So laying out the timeline and when this is all going to happen on the FAQ page and sharing that with one of us so we can disseminate it to the community, I think will be helpful. And then I'd also like to note that there was one crosswalk added at the end of Butternut on Monticello, which was great, because now I can cross without worrying about getting killed. But there was a crosswalk removed farther up the street, which was painted over, and I don't think it was ADA compliant because it was just a curb. So there was no net increase in crosswalks at the intersection, but you know, we're glad that one was put in closer to Fridas, and now we really need one right at the end of Monticello, where it meets Fridas. So thanks for the information, and again, I'll share my email. And you know, we're happy to be conduits to the neighborhood to share information as we get it.
Thank you.
Are you Tim?
I'm Kurt.
Oh, you're Kurt, okay.
Any other members of the public have a comment? Before we close public comment, I would like to acknowledge there were a couple written public comments that came in today. They were sent to the committee and they'll be put in the agenda packet or the minutes or whatever's coming up, I'm sure. But they, you know, they echoed these comments that you just have here. Okay, committee members. What do you have to say?
Do you want me to respond?
Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead. You respond. Yes, sorry. Go ahead and respond.
Yeah, so I guess as far as it is tabled for now, any future improvements in this area. We do maintain the median there, so our crews will keep an eye on kind of what's happening in that area as far as maintenance goes. And yes, we will definitely update the FAQs. We'll send some sort of update to the community, whether that comes through Public Works or comes through Councilmember Kurtz or the mayors. Like we'll figure that out, but we'll send that over soon. This is kind of we wanted to get the update and then officially send something out to everyone So yeah, we will definitely do that and. Yes, ADA, yeah, in the comment about the crosswalks added, so it was very fortunate that at Butternut, there was already curb ramps there that were accessible, so we were allowed to. Install a crosswalk there, and that's why we added one in as close as we could. That's the closest street to Bamboo Terrace, and then.
Yeah.
Just one additional comment. So we did publish a petition and we got, I think, 400 signatures, people supporting this project, the park project and the added crosswalk and sidewalk. We also raised some funds. And I know people would like something to happen to cover up the asphalt. And so I'm curious if, you know, if I don't know if there are storm drains on that stretch of the slip lane, but I think the community would fund putting down mulch or bark to cover up the asphalt and make it a more usable space that's not an eyesore. So, you know, I guess we can talk about that at some later date. You know, I'm happy to walk the slip lane and make sure there are no storm drains. And also, you know, I have an engineering background, work with you to prevent any bark or, you know, other materials from running off into the storm drain and take preventative measures to make sure that doesn't happen, because that is a valid concern. So, you know, happy to work with you. And again, I think the community would pony up the money to do something temporary before a permanent park can be constructed.
Thank you. Any response?
We'll have to look at it in a future date. I mean, we're currently working on our next year work plan, which is going to be presented to the city council next month, and our CIP. And yeah, there's still, yes, we're just trying to figure out kind of what we can fit in. We are currently going to recommend the improvements of the crosswalk and curb ramps, and as part of our CIP. I guess technically hasn't been approved, but you know, that's what our recommendation is. So we just have to kind of see what what happens with our work plan.
Okay. And we will be seeing the CIP in this committee at some point.
At some point.
Correct. Okay. Perfect. Members and
I will reiterate, I think it's wonderful that they are improvements, but I am frustrated as a citizen of San Rafael when I see street improvements and I see the blight that's left behind, and I don't think that's fair. I feel like the neighborhood is safer, which is great, but I don't think it's fair when they have to look at an eyesore. I don't think we've done our job. And I feel like however it gets remedied, partly temporarily, maybe with the neighbors, I feel like it should be put on the Parks and Recs idea of putting in a park, but that's not fair to them. And we are doing a half-inch job. We just do half of it, and we're not doing the other half of the project. That's not fair to the community.
No comment.
I mean, I think this is a great example of a project. It also just makes me think about, you know, as we just keep thinking about the bike ped master plan update, and it seems like I would love to see the plan take a look at just sort of looking for opportunities for low cost improvements. And I think the fact that you can go out there and do something with bollards and you know, real, you know, rather than spending hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars on something, that's a real, you know, a lot of bang for your buck on those kinds of things. And I'm sure that there's plenty of other places to do curb extensions and other kinds of quick build projects that just don't cost a whole lot of money. Just a suggestion, as far as, you know, a number of people have talked about wanting to have some kind of improvement or park-like thing. I mean, I know there's tons of examples of communities where they have like adopt a spot programs or some kind of nonprofit organization, or maybe an HOA like signs a contract and does maintenance work, or something where the community could buy into it and offer some assistance to meet. So just maybe some sort of partnership with that. So the city's not just totally on the hook for it, but get the neighborhood invested in what's going on.
So funny.
So first, I want to thank the neighbors, because when this whole thing transpired, really your efforts to bring in the broader communication was amazing, right? So the fact that you were able to get into dialogue with people in a way that's just a little bit harder for us to do it So thank you. I don't think it would have been so successful if you hadn't taken the time to talk to each individual person that had an issue with it. And I appreciate how the timing seems off in terms of closing the slip lane and what comes next. And that's just the reality of messy of life. And I actually don't agree that we've done a half-assed job, because the park and rec plan was done over 2 years with lots of people. And I'm really sensitive to the squeaky wheel thing, like whoever has access to the conversation is the one that benefits. And so for me, it's really important that this gets evaluated in context of all the other needs in the city. Having said that, I thought your suggestion that there's a way that the community, if they're interested in helping to fund it, and it's so just coincidental, because I was having a similar conversation, nothing to do with traffic, but the same thing of a community member saying, hey, I'd love to give money for this. We don't really have an active 501(c), and I actually have been talking to the city manager about it just 2 weeks ago, about if we can get one of those up. So because we don't have that mechanism that you're talking about for us to receive funds and to expend them. It doesn't really exist. And so it gets messy really, really quickly. So that is something we are going to look at. And my hope is that we'll have, and it's not just for this, it's for a lot of other projects, right? That we can have, that people want to donate to, I don't know, fix the fountain down below at City Hall. There are all sorts of stuff. So that might be a way, and I appreciate that the neighborhood can come together and say, hey, we want to improve this. And so is there a way that we can just have the city sign off on it, right? Because that's the other thing, if you all just go and do it, then theoretically we have to remove it. So I think there is a conversation there, and I appreciate your patience and resilience and willingness to be in it over several months, because I'm intrigued. I think I agree with you to just have the white delineators for the next 3 years is frustrating for everyone, especially because the community is willing and able to do something. But it will take a little bit. It probably won't be. That is probably a much faster route than through the Park and Rec master plan that we just approved last year. And it has short, medium, long term, and it was very, very solid. And to have something else slip in through that route doesn't make sense, possibly through the CIP. But again, we use algorithms to as if I'm doing a DPW, because the algorithms to really prioritize between equity, safety, health, all these things. So, so stay tuned, and we've definitely, I'll talk to Councilmember Ferguson after the city manager, because I do think the 501(c) is really an interesting starting point, and we cannot be the first jurisdiction that has had to wrestle with this.
Right now, it's in a bank account that, I'm managing, so people trust me.
Investing well.
It's in a savings account, but,
Yeah.
I didn't put it in crypto. But, I'll look forward to seeing the timeline for what's gonna happen,
Yeah.
but my understanding is that there'll be curbing put in addition to the white barricades and traffic paint. That's like a high priority first step. And then, like I said, we're happy to, we don't want to do anything, like you said, that's gonna cause the city to have to remove it. We want to work in conjunction with the city and get their approval before we dispense any of those funds towards improvements. But, I think the neighborhood will come together with permission from the city to make the space more hospitable and not an eyesore.
Yeah, I'll probably echo some of these other comments. I like how this all came together. We had a group of citizens come and bring a project forward that did not exist in our bike and pedestrian master plan, was not part of the Parks and Rec master plan committee. I was on that committee, and like April said, of maintaining what we have, it was way more money and improvements than we have, not even close to expanding. And then I was impressed that they brought it forward, and then Department of Public Works was able to respond, like Barry was saying, and within a year in the world of city government. That's instantaneous. And so, very, very quickly made something happen that makes it a lot safer. I just think that is, I think that's awesome. I have the concern is we have these prioritized plans, and it didn't exist in our master plan. We have lots of things we want in our master plan. So I think it's really awesome that it would be, I don't know what the cost was, but I assume it was negligible to close it off like it was. It's nice to be able to respond like that, just to serve the public, which is cool. There was an article that was attached. I don't know if you saw it in one of the public comments. I think it was the second one we got from maybe Lauren. And she attached an article in the IJ of a very similar sort of park in San Anselmo. And I thought that could be a pretty neat model as we continue working forward to doing something like that.
It was blocked off in 1977, just saying.
We will finish the project. I mean, I think that it is good for all, and I think, you know, the plan that you made is, you know, relatively temporary-ish, you know, within the next 50 years, temporary, and easy and very responsive, so I like that.
Can I just make one second? I'm so sorry, I meant to mention this earlier. I walk like daily in the neighborhood. I bike, I'm around that corner a lot, and the spot that I see people crossing in, it doesn't look like there's gonna be a crosswalk right there, so I wanted to just mention where I see all the kids zipping across when there's the bus, or it's the corner of Bamboo. You go down Montecito just past the intersection, and as you're heading, I think it's I'm really bad with direction, sorry, direction challenge, but if you throw the map up, I can point to it, but right where the slip lane is, basically just past the slip lane on that corner, that's where everybody crosses. So if you're putting it at the corner of the stop sign is, that's helpful for the people going straight, but the people going to Bamboo, they all cross right where that other end of that, whoops.
In one of my diagrams, I had across where that top purple
I'll show you.
circle is. Across Monticello.
So right there, that's where like all the kids cross there, and that's why it was so dangerous before, because it was a blind turn. But like right here is where they cross at the bottom of that.
And where are they going to? They're
They're
going
going
to
to
this.
Bamboo, because Bamboo is a huge street, it goes around, everyone goes that way, or they go down, there's Barberry Lane, which is where I live, and there's a bunch of kids on that street. So everyone kind of runs across on that side, sometimes on this side too.
And where would they be? Where would they be?
On a sidewalk.
We're here, so they're coming down Freitas, they go on the sidewalk
Yeah.
here, and they cross here, or they cross there.
Because there's no sidewalk on the west side of the slip lane. So if there were sidewalk there.
So we would
they're
keep
crossing- Yeah.
So you would.
Would here, or, I don't know, just somewhere, and when they get off the bus, they all immediately just go left and walk down a ways with their friends, and then they cross. They get
Change
that
that
street.
behavior.
To me, it seems that behavior would change when
But I'm
they're
just-
given a nice
Yeah.
facility too.
I just
but,
wanna
yeah.
note that that's literally where, I mean, I cross there. Because I'm by myself, I cross there, I come down, I go for a run up the hills, I come down that way, and I just jet across. And that's kind of like it's just like a natural thing to do, I don't know.
You see like, this current plan as
Yeah.
drawn, if you had a
I
crosswalk,
do.
do you think that would solve the problem? I mean, would that?
I
With the
hope so,
sidewalk.
I don't.
so too.
I hope
With the
so.
sidewalk.
new
on
sides.
that.
I don't know if it matters or not, but I just wanted to kind of mention that that's where like naturally where people have been running across for the last
Yeah.
15 years I've lived there. And I see people crossing on the bottom part where you're putting the crosswalk in, but only if they're going towards Scotty's. So the people that are going anywhere else in that neighborhood cross farther down. So if it was possible to put one in farther down, that would be a good idea, but. it's just-
And I think the other reason people aren't crossing there is because there's the end of the slip lane, that island is just overgrown with shrubbery. So if you did cross where that new crosswalk is gonna be, you'd be,
In the bushes.
in the bushes. You need a weed whacker to get through.
There's also a leaning tree there. Isn't there?
Yeah.
Either, but that's another story.
But they,
It's a new, we're proposing a new sidewalk. So there would be
so, okay, we solved that. Okay.
there would be a very safe place for people to walk that isn't in the place.
Okay. Well, we could wrap this one up. So can I invite a motion to receive and file this presentation? So move. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we will vote on the motion to approve this, to receive and file the Freitas Parkway, Monticello Road Slip Lane Closure Pilot Update with an A or nay vote. First the A's. That's committee unanimously votes 4-0 to approve this agenda item. Next on our agenda, do we have a staff liaison report today?
Yeah, I'll be giving an update
So-
on. Hi.
I'll be giving an update on just some recent projects that were completed and just kind of things that have been going on.
Sharing. There's usually red spots around it.
I am. Is it not sharing right now?
It is check. I got it. You have it? Okay. Usually there's a red box around it. That's not-
Oh, I'm sharing from my laptop instead of the screen. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so didn't get a chance to update the group back in February, but we finished the fiscal year 23-24 resurfacing project. That was partially completion of the canal neighborhood and also in North San Rafael. And during that project, you know, we got some really good feedback and we included we refreshed some crosswalks, striping, and then also included some additional bike facilities with the project. This past winter, we also completed the 3rd Street projects. Here's some photos of the before. I think this is right by G Street and 3rd, sorry, and 2nd, G Street and 2nd, before and after. You can see a bicyclist enjoying our new facilities. It looks amazing out there, I think. They're still right there. And we're currently finishing up our Grand Avenue Cycle Track project. You're gonna notice that some of the traffic control has been kind of dialed down a little bit, but we're preparing to finish the paving. It was initially planned for this week, but due to weather conditions, we're pushing that back a little bit to next week. Hopefully we'll get good weather, warm weather, so that we can finish up the project. And a portion of that, where we got Bay Trail funding, we actually started submitting paperwork for reimbursements already. So we're, you know, staying on top of our game there. And then also as part of the phase 2 of the striping with our resurfacing project, end of last fall, we're going to be adding additional bike facilities along Los Gatos. We're hoping to get to that this spring. That's our target. And then also there's the ongoing countywide traffic signal improvements. We've already upgraded several.
My name is Cheryl Ortiz. I work for the library. My library.
City council from yesterday was. Look at the map.
Several of our
I thought I was at
intersections.
a camera right now. That was amazing.
Several of our intersection signal heads have been upgraded from 8-inch to 12 inches. And we're currently still working with county reps to install some new audible push buttons around our city. And then some other project updates. Last night, the local road safety plan was adopted at our city council meeting, which is very exciting. Parametrics and April, our director Miller, provided a presentation. And then recently, we were awarded 1.94 million from the Reconnecting Communities grant. April and Nat did a lot of heavy lifting on that. Right, and that's for the connection between South Maridale Road and Civic Center Station. And then in addition to that, we also got a couple of grants from TFCA and TDA for crosswalk safety improvements and also a mid-block crossing enhancement along Francisco Boulevard. Our CIP is also working on pavement management program for developing a 3-year plan. I think this will give us a chance to kind of think ahead and look at any potential overlaps with striping that's being proposed or with our bike and ped, our current bike and ped master plan, but you know, also as we think about our update in the coming years. Speaking of which, you know, we haven't forgotten about our citywide bike and ped plan update. We've added an online survey to our website, and you can go and check out our website with the survey link, and then this is one of the most important questions that we want to put out there, which is to collect suggestions on any bike and ped projects that you know, City of San Rafael residents might have, so that we can consider it when we talk with our consultant on updating the plan. And then also I wanted to acknowledge we received postcards or letters from 28 Canal residents just showing their support on expanding bike and ped facilities and connections, you know, to really enhance the safety for the neighborhood. Here are the postcards. And then next, I'm gonna hand it over to Nat to just talk about our e-bike share program.
So this whole e-bike share program in the city has been on and off, delayed, pandemic hit, so decisions weren't made on who was gonna be selected for the program. But luckily, last year in October, we moved forward. We did another round of interviews, conducting and reviewing RFPs. So we are moving forward with the e-bike share program in Marin County. Here's a little bit of information about it. We received a grant from MTC for a total of $826,000 for a bike share program that connects Smart and Marin and Sonoma counties. Right now, TAM and Sonoma are the lead agencies that's overseeing this program. We conducted interviews in October of 2023, and out of the 4 that we interviewed, Drop Mobility was selected as a top ranked operator / proposer. So as of right now, starting, I guess, late December, they've been working on establishing a program, operating teams, service areas, parking hub locations at multiple cities. This program is going to be operating for about the next 2 years. And hopefully after that, if there's revenue gained from the e-bike share program, that would be contributed to maybe expanding the program, or maybe there might be more funding in the future to kind of keep this program going. So this whole e-bike share program, as of right now, the selected name that they're thinking about is Redwood e-bike. Don't ask me why. So as of right now, the idea has been thrown around. They're still tossing out a couple of names out there for labeling on these e-bikes. Basically, it's a phased expansion project. There's going to be a total of 300 e-bikes throughout Marin County and Sonoma. A total of 75 hubs along the Smart train line. So there is quite a bit of locations. A lot of those locations will probably have anywhere up to maybe 5 to 10 e-bikes to rent. There is going to be a software app to where you can basically log in, check a bike out, go pick it up, drop it off, and also pay for it. That there's going to be some data collection where e-bikes travel. They're going to analyze it and basically determine, based on the usage and locations, do we expand it, add more e-bikes to that location as well? So it's kind of going to be like a pilot study / implementation phase. And it's going to just constantly change and evolve. So right now, one thing that we're looking at is there's a list of hub locations that they're proposing for us to install. So currently we have staff and management looking at locations. We might want to actually extend it out to maybe some feedback committee members to take a look at the locations that are currently proposed to see if should we relocate it, consider a different area. At these mobility hub locations, depending on usage, would depend on how wide they expand in the future. There's going to be GPS trackers. So a lot of these e-bikes, you can actually designate how far they go, where do they stop operating and all that. So it's just a matter of designating borders to where these e-bikes travel. I think that was an issue that happened years ago with certain cities where they didn't have a lot of the borders and bikes just went missing, or they got dumped into like Lake Merritt and all that. So we'll definitely be looking at coverage areas, GPS, hub locations, and I think this would be something that would be great to bring to BPAC committee members to kind of take a look at it and see if these locations are good locations. So December, a contract was signed with Drop Mobility. January, we had some preliminary meetings with stakeholders, discuss about what they're going to do with marketing and outreach. And as of right now, everything is really just preliminary. Drop Mobility has done a couple other cities, but they need to really look at San Rafael, other agencies in Marin County, and see what works. So I think they're kind of tweaking their marketing and approach when it comes to the county. So they will be finalizing a branding and a name, but as of right now, I know it's Redwood. Whether that's gonna be approved or not, we're not sure. There are a couple other names that are being thrown out there. I assume it's because we have redwoods in Marin County.
And they move around a lot.
April has mentioned we had redwood. So
A high school named Redwood, which
we did.
could pose, well, in the area. And there might be some animosity directed towards bikes that are associated with Redwood High. So, you know,
Just from the Marin Catholic. Right.
yeah, and well, Terra Linda too.
So they're hoping to deploy and do some more outreach sometime in June, July. So we do have a couple months to really kind of dive in, get some more details and share with the group. This will probably be something that will be shared over the next few months to get more input as we move forward. And for e-bike safety, we do have our webpage linked right here, which is citysanrafael.org/traffic. It has some information out here on safety information on e-bikes. As of right now, Marin County doesn't have an e-bike policy, but that is something that the city and other agencies are looking into. It's just, we haven't gotten that far yet, so as we start this whole process, we'll definitely have to dive into it.
Great, thank you, Nat. And our last update is just what, our proposed future agenda item, which is to, share our safety and traffic budget and work plan. It's something we're still working on, but we do hope to bring it back, to BPAC in the future.
Thank you. We're done. Questions from the committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question on the e-bike share program. First, a comment. I think it's a great idea and a great plan, and understanding COVID retarded a lot of progress on things. I'm glad to see that's finally moving forward. 300 bikes seems like nothing for all of Sonoma and Marin along the smart train line. So I'm hoping that we can keep an eye towards possible grants and other funding to help underwrite the program and boost it for the future. I've ridden e-bikes in a lot of different cities in a lot of different states. Every time I travel, I try to go find where you can do that, and I'm successful and in a lot of times. So I think it's a great way to learn an area. And I think that other parts of the city lend themselves to having that kind of modality available to go from neighborhood to neighborhood, not just from the smart train station to someplace else. Where else? You said Drop Mobility has a few other cities. What other cities might they have? Because I haven't heard of them.
I think they were up north, right? Pretty sure they're up north.
Let me see if I can.
Fort Bragg,
I'm trying to
other
remember.
big, Eureka.
They do have a webpage that provides that information.
Okay, I'll look it up.
Tam, I don't know if anyone asked that, but
That is something that we can.
Well, I'm just curious
Yeah.
because I've done it in handful of cities here, and I have at least 3 or 4 apps on my phone for
Okay.
Sobe and all kinds of other ones, Long Beach and.
Yeah.
or-
What I see on the webpage right now, it's New Orleans, Kansas, Colorado Springs, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Dayton, Ohio. I think they're migrating over to the West Coast as well, so it's kind of almost like a.
I'll just-
throw it on here.
Could you explain how they will not be stolen or what happens to the security of those boats?
So with the bikes, there's a perimeter that you set, so they can only go to a certain stretch that operate. And once they go past those borders, it just shuts down.
You could physically pick up and put in the car.
You could, but they are heavy
They're
too.
beasts, a
They're
lot of them.
Yeah.
They're built to take abuse.
They're also very distinctive looking.
And they do have GPS.
Can't just sell one.
With the flaming green.
Whether they can retrieve it back or not. That would be part of that whole operations and plan the thing.
As far as branding, I would suggest you could actually maybe go to the city snapshot newsletter and maybe ask citizens to come up with names. I just feel you need a little bit more dynamic.
They did a big survey, they did a big survey about this that went out for.
It's not a city-run project.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's,
through Tam's the lead
Yeah.
agency.
we
And I have it.
supported more on the technical advisory.
Okay, it's just a name, but it still doesn't actually designate, it doesn't correlate to the equipment. You know, you're moving a bike, you're going somewhere, it's a positive experience and you call it Redwood.
Who's
Just-
saying so?
It's just, anyway, that's minor.
No, I think it's a really good point. No, I appreciate hearing, I want to keep hearing all the input on this. So I'm on TAM, as you might know, and I'm part of the administration planning program steering committee, executive committee, where we parse this at even final level. And TAM has been really committed to the first mile, last mile for a long time. So in addition to the people in this room, there's 17 people on the TAM board that we've been really wanting this. And we did have a provider who went out of business during COVID. So we had made progress on it. Your questions are excellent. And I think part of this, we always add the word pilot, meaning that some things might go sideways. We're not sure how it's gonna act, but I had the same question mark as you did when it was brought to TAM. I think it was last year that we voted on it because we voted on the contract. Because they, as I said, the lead agency, I said the same thing, like 300 bikes. I mean, that's why the smart station, it's correlating with the last mile, first mile, last mile. And what we're hoping is that it'll be wildly successful and then getting the additional funding to keep it going to have more bikes until we get the wins. The other part that was up on your slide, but I wanted, which to me was important, but I don't even know if it's in this first round, is the whole aspect of equity. And then how do we ensure folks in the canal neighborhood that can have access to it? So those questions are coming up, but I can tell you the commitment at TAM is huge. I totally agree on the Redwood name, and we're actually have a meeting next Monday. I don't know if this is on the agenda, but I'll totally bring it up. I'll bring it up. I kind of agree with you guys. I agree with you, not so much because I don't like the word, but the Redwood High School thing I hadn't thought about. I think that's a really valid.
A lot of businesses are named Redwood. I mean,
No, I think that's a really valid point. So we'll see what we can do, but it hasn't been decided yet. They're trying to do the branding.
Hasn't been decided.
Yeah.
There's been a couple agencies who've been vocal on saying they don't like it, some like it, so it's kind of up in the air right now.
Now, I guess I have a question. Have they decided on a technology yet? Like, it's gonna be, are you gonna have to return it to a docking station, or does it just?
Then we have those hub locations. A lot of it will be those docking stations that
Okay.
they can charge and all.
So some because they just have corrals where you can just, but there's no dock. It's just like a place, and I know they have the whatchamacallit, the technology where it activates only in certain locations, but I didn't know if that's where they actually have to be returned to, or they be charged, or do they get picked up and brought somewhere?
Yeah, they would.
Just curious.
They would have to be dropped off at the hub locations, but not all people are gonna just drop it off there. They might just let it go, whether it's on the smart train or on the side. And that would have to be their maintenance program. Who's gonna pick those up, return them?
So how does it work? Are you renting them by the hour or is it free?
Rent them. I think it's by the minute.
So if I was to take the train and I work and I'm cycling to work, I keep it there all day. That would be,
Once you get to your location and you disembark, then you just leave it there, you would log off.
oh, then you have to hope you could get transportation back. Otherwise, you'd be paying for it all day sitting in your office. I'm just trying to work out. how to-
Well, I think once you log on, it stops charging you. And after work, if you were to search for the bike, it's either someone else can pick it up, because it's almost first come, first serve.
So is it, you could pick it up at either a station or you run across it on the corner?
Or your app will tell you where they're available.
Yeah, the app tells you where those are.
What?
But I've seen them where they just go station to station, and you could technically leave it, but the only way to really disengage it is to put it back into the station. That shuts it off. So it's basically you're paying for point to point. You're going from point A to point B, pay for that depending on time. A lot of times it's the first 30 minutes is free, and then it's $2 and then it's $3 for the next hour. There's different plans. You can buy monthly plans. You can, if you're commuters, it's really pretty convenient.
Yeah. It's one of the critical things, I'm like.
Well, we'll need a station, a hub right here for City Hall.
I have some non-e-bike related questions earlier in your Joanna related questions.
Sure.
The pavement plan included Los Gamos replacing, I saw that. Does that striping include any bike facilities?
Yeah, so actually, our resurfacing project for fiscal year 23-24, which we finished last fall, included some striping along Los Gamos, but we didn't quite finish adding in the bike facilities yet. So we're doing a part 2, which is what we're gonna be doing this, yeah. So that's gonna include bike.
Class two bike lanes on Los Gamos. Great.
That's the thought, so we're preparing the exhibits so that we can get that installed.
My other question, and maybe this was gonna come up in your CIP and future work, did you apply for any Safe Streets and Roads for All grants or Safe Pathways to School grants in this cycle?
No, but there's multiple deadlines throughout the year, so our plan is to apply for one or both of the other ones. We needed to adopt a local road safety plan in order to apply for it, and so, you know, as much faith as I could have in city council and our recommendations to turn it around in 2 days, an application was a little difficult, so we're looking at the May and August deadlines.
Cool. Can I get members of the public? Do we have any comments? Go ahead. Joe first.
Curious about the e-bikes, like if you wanted to drop it off and log it out, are there any restrictions or when they could be dropped off? For example, not on a sidewalk? And, does the Redwood Management, company collect them like with the vans, how they do for City Bike in New York? Or, do they retrieve them, based on the GPS tracking?
I don't have all the details. I believe some of those details were included in their proposal. But in regards to what we would do specifically for Marin County, that could change based on region and conditions. So I think this is where they need to start planning. You know, what's their maintenance policies, what's the pricing? There's so many like parameters that they need to figure out first for this all. I mean, and that's why I think most of this stuff is gonna happen over the next few months. So it's gonna take a few months to.
So you have like, kind of like menu options to choose and select on the costs that they offer with the services.
So I don't have all the details. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
There'll be some there's gonna be some discussions and regulations on, you know, not blocking sidewalks, like being to provide, you know, maintain accessible paths of travel, and that's the thing that we're gonna have to work with, because you can't just leave it where.
It's, I mean, I think it's great in Manhattan, but like in Rockaway Beach, I've seen it littered with Lime bikes before.
Yeah, that's what I was
I've
thinking.
seen it in San Diego, same thing. All over there.
There's only three.
Sorry.
The good part about this area is we have a lot of cyclists and pedestrians. So like, even if it's just 300, I think the usage is gonna be really high. Because the whole community here, the numbers in itself are so high that I believe they won't be sitting there. But we'll have to see.
And the ideal use case would be somebody who may or may not take the SMART train and then go out into the town. So for example, my wife and I take the train, go up to Petaluma, get the bike, go have dinner out in Petaluma somewhere we wouldn't normally drive to, and then bring it back to the train station, take the train back. Something
That's
like
the
that.
ideal one, yeah.
If someone doesn't take it while you're having dinner, just don't log out.
Yeah, yeah.
Slide in
Every
the
5
back.
minutes you want this.
Or did you?
I just wanted to ask April, how many more or less, positions is the Public Works Department down? Yeah, and I'm not expecting a low number, by the way. I'm assuming it's pretty high.
I mean, I guess it depends on the division, so we have lots of different divisions, so. For instance, our park staff's down three out of 12. Our street staff's fully, you know, our other main divisions are currently fully staffed. Our admin's fully staffed as of a month ago. Engineers, we just put out 3. There's 3 new hires that are gonna start in the next month. And then
By June.
by June, but we're working on the paperwork, so we've already interviewed, and that will make us fully staffed.
Now, has Rafat's position been filled? Or is it going to be filled?
That has not been, so I guess one vacancy.
No,
I mean, as of June, so.
okay, I thought you alluded to.
There have been, so we're currently down 3 people on the CIP team.
That's a lot,
But
okay.
we've already made offers to those 3 people.
And you can't fill those positions. You made it through.
Yeah.
You were awesome, by the way, from day one. Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Okay,
Can't find it.
anybody else, anything else to say? Deliberation from the, no comments. I'd like to say, thank you for the Las Gallinas bike path. I realize I made a minor stink about that, but I'm glad that the striping, you know, we learned through that, or maybe you could share that the additional striping wasn't like actually super easy. It was sort of expensive. So I was glad to see that happen on Las Gallinas.
Yeah, I mean, in context, it was $1 million project, and adding that striping was $140,000, which ate up our entire contingency, which is why we have phase 2 for Los Gamos, because we could not afford to do the striping there. But yes, it is a significant increase, in our contract also originally included some of this high visibility crosswalks, which means striping is just expensive. It's a percentage of our paving budget we need to.
Yeah.
include each year.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you. I wrote it this morning and every morning. Makes it safer. I'd like to invite a motion to receive and file the presentation on.
I moved.
What did we call it?
Second.
Updates.
Yeah.
Let's vote on the motion to approve, to receive and file this informational update. 4-0 unanimously approves this, staff liaison report. Next agenda item is the commissioner reports. I actually don't know that we have, I don't have one.
I thought I was a committee member, not a commissioner, but I need
Yeah.
to change my business cards.
Can I share something?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so we recently met, Director Miller was there with the Point San Pedro Road Coalition. So you may recall that the lane in front of the fire station was closed during construction, which provided happiness for some, great consternation for others. And what the city wanted to look at is how do we have Point San Pedro be as safe as possible, and looking at speeding and everything else. And we really want to have a holistic approach. And what's really interesting about this road, it goes county, city, county, and it's very, for those that live out there, you know that. This meeting was fantastic. I can't say enough to Director Miller and the guy from the county. I can't remember his name, Fareed. So Fareed showed up, and we had leadership, the key people from the Point San Pedro Road Coalition, as well as the neighborhood leaders. So we really had that, what's happening on the ground, as it were. And the goal, so what we decided is, what would happen was the speed survey was shared. And there's also, I'm not gonna get all into when you speed survey and then what you're legally allowed to have as a speed limit. We talked a lot about that. And what we all want is to have the road be as safe as possible. And if there are improvements to be made to make it safer, what would that be? And many bike advocates want to remove, and I get this, being a cyclist myself, but remove all the parking and have the awesome bike lanes and everything else. There's some real constraints out there for all the reasons that you already know. So the next step, and I'm really excited about this, we're going to be, the city, with the county. Oh my God, collaboration. So looking at restriping the entire, and I think it's probably not till the end of this year, beginning of next, we have to get a contractor. It's confusing when you have 2 government agencies, because their procurement and our procurement are different. And so if you want to procure the same person, it is so bureaucratically annoying, I can't even tell you. But the good news is, from what we're hearing from leadership, and they're going to go ahead and meet with the community and the neighborhood out there to help socialize, very much what you guys did with the slip lane. So people start to understand what's going on, is that there are things that we can do to visually narrow Point San Pedro. And when things visually are slower, people go slower. One, and it would actually get us a little bit more room for people that want to bike along the edge. So I think the next steps was they were going to go normalize it and get feedback from their community. And then we were going to reconvene. I think that's what was, reconvene maybe in the summer or the fall. But it was just, it's really exciting because Point San Pedro has been one of those conversations forever, you know that, Mark knows that,
40
right?
years,
What?
40 years.
Yeah, 60 years. And so, no, but it was just, it was really great. And I really just, I'm really proud of staff because, they showed up. So stay tuned for that. And ultimately, I think it will be safer. It won't necessarily be the fancy bike lanes, but it will, I think, have more room for cyclists there and people will go slower just by the nature of the visual, narrowness of it. Is there anything else you want to add? Because you were so instrumental in bringing us all together. No, it's great.
Yeah, so it's a slurry seal project, and so like the one in North Center Fell. So the plan is to do that next summer. So for the next year, working with the county on our striping plans and looking at narrowing the lanes to 11 feet, which is what Third Street is. So and Sir Francis Drake. So some of these big key corridors already have 11-foot lanes, and then giving that excess space to the shoulder, whether it's, whether we could fit a bike buffer or not, or, how that looks. We still need to kind of look at the corridor, and that's what we're gonna be doing.
Is there any room for physical separation, bollards or, little?
We have to look at that because the road varies in width a little bit, but I mean, I think there's an extra like 1 to 4 feet potentially along the entire street. So we say need to look at it as a whole. If it's 4 feet for only 100 feet, do we really like do a buffer? And so that's part of this analysis, and the city and county both have the same consultant who's doing the striking plans.
Which is,
I don't remember. We hired them as part of a conversation we had a couple years ago. Yeah, we won't talk about, but yeah, so, I don't remember who it was who was helping with the plans. The county hired them.
But to that point, because the bollards maybe, this is where we need the neighborhood input. We're not gonna be able to bollard the entire.
Sure.
So if there are pain points, kind of, the woman who left you said, hey, this is how people always go across the street. So we have asked them, we've asked the community, the neighborhoods, and they have plenty of time to come back and say, hey, these are the areas where we'd really like to see if we could put a bollard, or these are the areas. There's also additional requests about crossing Point San Pedro, which is a really difficult thing because it's a double lane and from a safety standpoint. But again, what we said was, okay, bring that information back because maybe there's a way that these things can happen together. So if you're really interested in this, the Point San Pedro Road Coalition, I think their meetings are open to everyone. I can put you in contact with Robert Sandoval and he will bring you along on the project.
Do we need to have public comment on,
No.
since it was a report? Okay.
We have open time, that's next, right?
Yeah, so next we have, open time for public expression for things that were not on the agenda. Keep in mind that we're not able to actually talk about things that weren't on the agenda, but we'd love to hear what people have to say. Anyone?
So, open comments?
Yes, yeah, open.
I love that you're working with the Point San Pedro Road Coalition. I think it's fantastic, especially getting the input from the community. I do want to help focus on some of the areas of conflict. I ride it every day during rush hour, and so going westbound, there's a blind turn. It's right when the speed limit goes down to 35 miles an hour, go to high school.
Yeah.
And I have this much outside the white stripe, including the gutter.
not even that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know that.
And so, that's just one of them. The other one's in front of the school. Like I'm coming down the hill. And thankfully, I appreciate you putting the 3-foot when passing signs on the side of the road there that I asked for. I point to that sign every time a gravel truck's coming at me from behind or a loud diesel truck or whatever it is. It's still a pretty high area of conflict. I don't think you can get bollards in there. Maybe it's, parking length or something like that. I don't know how you'd work them. But I feel like that's the other like high area of conflict that probably needs to be addressed in them.
When some of the bike lanes went in. And for the problem you were talking about, do we ever put in rumble strips along the side of the road so that cars know that they're migrating into the bike lane? Yeah, I think it would make bike lanes a lot safer if people knew that they had migrated off the road and into a dedicated bike lane. Nobody likes driving on those. So even people that are, you know, driving carelessly,
Looking at
don't
their
care
phone.
about, yeah, no, don't care about bicyclists. They're not gonna wanna hear that sound on wheels.
Well, they need curbs for.
I don't think we're actually able to respond to the public comment, but we could talk about that later.
No, I mean, you can provide an email and we get staff to respond.
Yes.
later.
I second that. I'm right down there a lot. That's where I work. And, the people go into the bike lane, especially that curve where you're talking about. And I started biking on the sidewalk, which is a first for me, because I literally almost died. I have, panniers on the back. I put my work stuff on the back. And a car moved over too close to me, and so I went over, but I went so close that I went into a parked car. And then what happens when you hit the Panera, you actually go the other way. So I, like, luckily the car stopped soon enough, and it was like pretty scary. And so it totally could have been avoided if there was either no parking along there or just some space. And I agree, people don't care. They turn right in front of me and they don't care. And so unless we put something that makes them uncomfortable, they're not gonna change their behavior.
Thank you.
The road, if you're coming down Second Street and you want to make a right turn to go towards Staples, what is that road? That's now one ways. Is that Francisco, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So using that as an example, I would really appreciate it if you guys would pay a lot more attention to disaster preparedness. Because the way that those things are sticking up out of the road, there's no way to get people out of there. Because you got one lane going one direction, then there's no way to get out of there except going all the way around Lincoln and going around things. And I've been thinking about that since the very first day going, it's area that nobody uses. You know, you can't bike, it's because the bicycle lane's over here and the other stuff's over there. It's very narrow there. It's frighteningly narrow. And it's important, you know, that gets put in somewhere. I mean, the same thing in the parking lot for Walgreens. It's ridiculous. If there's more than one person waiting for the light, the whole parking lot stops because there's no room to get around. So, and that was my biggest concern for the Walgreens lot the entire time. So thank God that thing that's not even on the street, you can get out, but it's important to be able to get out. So, thank you.
We have one more comment?
How involved has this committee been in the Northgate redevelopment project and the plans for that development in terms of pedestrian and bicycle safety?
I don't think we can respond, but I'll talk to you some other time.
You have my email.
Great. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move.
Second. Okay. Hey, you want to adjourn? We're ready to adjourn. I think our next scheduled meeting is Wednesday, June
Something, third.
fifth. At 6 p.m. Thanks, everybody.
You know, I want to thank you for what you said about their project. 'Cause I think it's-